You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, the Friday edition of the College Loop Podcast, a rarity of sorts. I'm Larck, your boy Tick on Twitter. He talked to you today about the latest in Auburn athletics. We're going to talk about some news that happened this week. It's been early signing day for a lot of different teams. I'm not going to go delve too far into the actual signings. Maybe Sunday I'll try to get a complete list of everybody. It was baseball, it was softball, it was a lot of players. But starting off with today's show, we're going to preview this week's matchup for the Auburn Tigers as they take on the ULM Warhawks. Now, ULM is a Sun Belt team. They're currently 5-4. They're on a 3-game skid, losing 46-17 to South Alabama, 28-23 to Marshall, and then their last game lost 38-17 to Texas State. Now, Texas State, pretty decent team, also 5-4. But they have Jordan McLeod, a JMU quarterback, who I thought Auburn could have made a run at, but did not. He didn't have a good game. I believe he got knocked out with an injury. Only had 5 passes for 56 yards and a touchdown. But the key to that game, Texas State ran the ball 54 times for 326 yards and 4 touchdowns. The ULM defense, as of late, has been pretty decent as a pass defense, as stopping the pass game. But as a run defense, they've kind of weakened as the season's gone along, giving up a lot of big yards. And I think it plays in Auburn's favor because what I've been looking at, I mean, guy could talk about the defense in a second, but this Auburn offense has not found a groove running the ball since Kentucky. And really, that's it. They've avoided the run game in almost every other game. I talked about it last week where I said Jarquez Hunter is the most deserving of a 1,000-yard season of any Auburn running back ever. And now you're going to go against a team that you should, without a doubt, get Jarquez Hunter to 1,000 rushing yards on the season this week as they take on ULM. Now, I don't think Auburn needs to do anything too fancy because something to look at with this Auburn offense right now, it has been a mess trying to figure out who is going to be at quarterback this Saturday. Hugh Freeze said Peyton Thorne didn't practice all of last week. Peyton Thorne says he's good to go for this week. And then Hugh Freeze says maybe he's not as far as long as he'd like, but he still expects him to play. I don't understand the issue here. You talk about wanting to see the bigger picture. You know, you want to see that, and you want to see if maybe one of your younger quarterbacks can go in. Hank Brown, you know, you said Walker White got more reps, looked good in practice. Holden Gerner. But your quarterback who has struggled throughout the season throwing the ball gets an injured shoulder, and even though he's not as far as long as you'd like, you're still expecting him to play. That's not seeing the bigger picture. So Peyton Thorne probably gonna play on Saturday against the chagrin of, I would assume, most of the fan base. But going into this game, Auburn should get a big win here as long as you follow the script, run the football, and attack ULM's weakness, which is, again, just Auburn has more talent. And teams where Auburn, I was about to say, in games where Auburn has more talent, they end up winning, but that's just not true at all this year. Again, ULM started off 5-1, and then again 3 games again, now 5-4, 3-3 in the Sun Belt. Again, 3 consecutive losses to Sun Belt opponents. So Auburn, on the other hand, is 3-6, 1-5 in the SEC. And again, a team that has lost by 10, 4, 18, 6, 10, and 7. Big competitive all year in the SEC, but not able to turn those losses into wins. Hopefully next year will come around. But looking ahead to this Auburn defense, I mean, UL Monroe turns over the football a lot. 8 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions this season for the Warhawks. Rushing-wise, rushing 1,500 yards as a team and 13 touchdowns. Their star running back, Ahmad Hardy, has He's pretty close to getting to 1,000 rushing yards himself on the season, only 85 yards away. Also has 9 touchdowns on the year. So they're going to try to run the ball as well. This could be a very quick game that goes through a watch, as both teams should run the ball heavily, but one with more success than the other, as Auburn should run all over the Warhawks. So this game taking place on Saturday at 11:45 a.m. SEC Network. A very quick, fast, preview here. I think overall Auburn has everything in their power to win this game. Auburn, a 25.5-point favorite. I don't know if I've ever bet for Auburn on a spread ever, but they should cover this. They should. If not, bigger issue there. But this is a good chance for Auburn. You had next week of practice. You had ways to get people healthy that needed to get healthy. And you turn the corner. Maybe you have an explosive game. Maybe you can turn it into something. Don't know. I'm still expecting this to be a 4-8 season. And, this being the last win I predict for Auburn football this year. So, with that, I'm taking Auburn in this game. I'm going to say Auburn probably covers that spread. And I'm going to say Auburn gets the win 48-14. So I think that's a pretty decent covered thing right there. I think you're going to get a lot of the young guys in. And if Auburn doesn't get it, I'm going to absolutely lose my mind. And just don't do too much. Just don't. If Peyton Thorne is injured to the point where he's not as far as long as you expect, and you're still gonna put him in, don't pass the ball. If it's his throwing shoulder, he's already struggled passing the ball. Just don't pass the ball this entire game. If you do, put Hank Brown in, or better yet, put Hank Brown in. Start Hank Brown. He's already shown before he can take down a CUSA or Sunbelt team before. He took down New Mexico in a very big fashion himself. Put him back out there. If you're going to put Peyton Thorne out there versus Texas A&M, then put Hank Brown out there this week and then rest up your quarterback that you want to put in there and have him be able to throw the football against Texas A&M's defense. If not, if he gets hurt again, you're setting up Hank Brown to not only have not practiced really as a starter this week, but now you have to force him back into another SEC match that, you didn't give him a week of prep time for. So I don't know what to tell you anymore. I put Walker White in or put Hank Brown in. That's my two options. You got to try to get both those guys to come back. I believe Walker White will come back next year, but I also want some older quarterbacks on the roster as well. So yeah, 48-14 is my prediction for the Auburn Tigers this week. So after that, I'm gonna change up the layout a little bit as we get ready for the pregame show. As I throw that over there, there we go. So I'm gonna do this real quick before we round out with basketball at the end of the break. So we have we'll go into the break and then do some recruiting news, football and basketball, and then talk about the games that happened this week. There we go. There's a correction live for everybody. So College Loop Pick'ems of the week. I am 72-38, which means I'm doing pretty good. I win. I get two wins for every loss that I get. Just about. So starting off, I have all the SEC matchups on here. I did not do any of the cupcake games because you already know I'm going to pick the SEC teams over the cupcake. Starting off, Texas versus Arkansas. Texas had a massive win last week versus Florida, and right now they're favored to win by 12, despite the fact they're playing in Razorback Stadium. I think that Texas played very well versus Florida, enough to kind of build into that going forward. So I like Texas in this game, and I like them to probably cover that spread as well. Up next, going to the Big 12, Utah at Colorado. It's kind of weird to say Big 12 and name two former Pac-12 teams last year. Utah traveling number 17, Colorado for that matter. Colorado is a 11-point favorite, and this is going to be a big game. Utah should have beaten BYU last week, but you had a very bad call at the end of the game. But I think that with this being in Boulder, Colorado's been playing very well this year. I'm going to give Colorado the edge of this one. I think they're borderline potential for a playoff spot this year. So kudos to them. Now to the ACC, Clemson traveling to take on Pitt, formerly undefeated Pitt, but now 7-2 Pitt. Clemson currently favored by 11.5 points. And with Pitt on a 2-game skid, losing by a lot to SMU and then losing to Virginia, I don't see a world right now where I can pick Pitt in good conscience. There you go. So I'm going to take Clemson in this one. Now, American Conference, number 25, Tulane at Navy, and a fall from grace Navy had, starting off undefeated and then falling off a little bit. I'm going to take Tulane, even though they're playing in Annapolis, Maryland. Tulane's 7-point favorite. I like the Tulane Green Wave in that one. Up next, you have LSU at Florida. This one should be a fun one. DJ Lagway is expected to be good to go. LSU still favored by 3.5 points in the Swamp. LSU played terribly last week. I mean, they dropped a lot, and they should have. That was an absolute abysmal performance. That was the Brian Kelly that everyone knows and loves on full display against Alabama last week. I picked LSU to win. It was a hate pick, so I didn't. I was not going to pick Alabama last week. So LSU versus Florida, this is such a tough one to me. LSU kind of proven to be fraudulent. So if Lagway plays, I'm going to take Florida. If Lagway plays. If Lagway is not good to go, I'm taking LSU. So just let that be. This is like the first half and half thing. If Lagway plays, taking Florida. So I'm just going to rock with Florida because I think Lagway is going to play. Dude is an absolute dog. Up next, going to the Big Ten, Nebraska traveling to Los Angeles to take on Southern California. USC's 7.5-point favorite. Both these teams started off pretty hot, fell off, and now USC on probation. So keep that in mind. Talking about another former USC commit in just a little bit. Nebraska at USC. I'm going to take USC. It's at home. I think they have to have a turning point, and of course, they have some very nice uniforms to wear this week. As I have a coughing fit right there. All right, SEC, a ranked matchup, one of 2 ranked SEC matchups this week. Missouri travels to Columbia, South Carolina, to take on the Gamecocks, and I'm taking South Carolina. I'm finally doing a turning point. I think South Carolina finally found consistency in their entire team, offense and defense playing as one complete unit. And the Missouri looked bad. I don't know what in the world they gave Brady Cook to come in versus Auburn after getting, admitted to the hospital and then immediately taken out of the hospital so he can come back and beat Auburn. So now you have Drew Pine again, I believe. But I just don't think Missouri is a good team anymore. Without a quarterback, they're just not a good team. So, yeah, South Carolina in that one. Up next, Big Ten, Oregon traveling to Madison, Wisconsin, take on the Badgers. I'm going to rock with Oregon. Playing the best football in the country is Oregon. I think they're one of the only undefeated teams outside of, I guess BYU, never mind. I'm going to say only undefeated team in the first 4, but I think BYU is still undefeated. So, yeah, I'm taking Oregon in that one. Up next, Tennessee at Georgia. This is college game day, and really they should turn around and leave. This is not going to be number 7 Tennessee for very long. I'm going to take Georgia in this game. Georgia's coming off an embarrassing loss to Ole Miss. And for Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava is not playing. So, game day bust, might as well just turn around. This game no longer counts because number 7 Tennessee is not playing at full capacity if Nico Iamaleava is not playing. So I'm going to take Georgia in that one because Nico will not be quarterback for the Volunteers. Lastly, on the docket, Kansas traveling number 6 BYU. And if last week is to anyone's surprise, I'm going to take BYU here. Have a lot of factors on their side. So That's my pick'ems of the week. We're going to quick break. Other side of this break, we are going to talk Auburn recruiting, both on the football front and basketball, and then going to talk about this past week's games on the court, and then we'll get out of here. So we'll be right back after this short break. Wrong one. Here we go.
Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes, looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
You can get both those on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop and it'll be on the first page. You'll get the college loop hat. Second page, Feelin' Loopy t-shirt. Go check those out today. It's one of the ways you can support the show. But the best way you can support the show is, of course, by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Again, we're over 900 subscribers. We're on our way to 1,000, which means eventually we're on our way to 1 million. You know, that's how that works, right? So go check that out. And, of course, don't forget to leave your prediction for Auburn versus ULM this week. Who do you want to start at quarterback, and why is it Walker White more than likely? I think a lot of people kind of share that factor. They want to see Walker White play, especially because you're not going to burn a red shirt with the time that's left in the season. So, Auburn recruiting news. Auburn gains a couple of commits for the 2025 class as you get 4-star corner Shamar Arnaud flips his commitment from the USC Trojans, 4-star defensive back, 6'2", out of Carrollton, Georgia. Auburn got him, and it's a very athletic dude. He's played track and field, and he's just overall just a very athletic corner. It's something that Auburn is very heavy on in this class. This is a very defensive-heavy class, which, going into the season, I thought was something Auburn really needed. I thought that Auburn wasn't going to have a decent defense this year because of the amount of talent that was lacking. But with how the defense played this year, if you keep that staff, the entire staff, and you add in Jared Smith, Malik Autry, you added Anquan Fegans, Eric Winters, Jacaleb Fogg, Jordan Crawford, Nathan Marshall, Donovan Starr, Antonio Coleman, Blake Woodby. You got keep going down the list. I got to scroll all the way down. Elijah Melendez. You have Devin Williams. You have Shamar Arnaud. You have Bryce Diaz. And all these dudes. I'm not missing any defensive players, I don't believe. Yeah, you have all those dudes coming into this defense already. Defense is going to be loaded. If you're Hugh Freeze, not only are you recruiting your players back to your team, but you need to start recruiting your coaches back as well. You make sure none of those guys are getting any other calls from anywhere else, because this defense looking to be really, really good next year too. Another commit that Auburn was able to add outside of Shamar Arnaud was a 3-star wide receiver, and Eric Smith, twin brother of Auburn 4-star wide receiver commit Derek Smith, and both these dudes outstanding. And the funny thing is they're twins. Derek Smith, 6'1", more of the speed threat wide receiver, and then Eric Smith, 6'6", go up and get a guy. Also, Auburn getting an opportunity to get a lot of 50-50 balls out of that. Would love to see both these guys develop into an awesome pairing. How cool it would be to have two receivers that are twin brothers on starting on the outside. That'd be awesome. And it's going to be very confusing throughout the years to analyze these two, because their names are so similar, Derek and Eric. So a lot of great commits coming through. Signing day, of course, December 4th. Going to probably have a few early guys signed, but Auburn looking right now, number 6 class in the class 2025, number 3 class in Rivals ranking. So we're going to go by Rivals for the time being. So yeah, Auburn, massive class coming through, and they're not done yet. They're not finished yet. A lot of crystal balls still yet to see if they're going to come through or not. But overall, shoot, if Auburn can maintain the guys on their roster, 2025 should be a good year for the Tigers. If not, maybe it's time to move on from a coach. So that's Auburn football recruiting. Auburn basketball recruiting. Caden Magwood has signed his NLI. I guess they're not doing NLIs anymore, if I'm not mistaken. But he is signed with the Auburn Tigers. So he becomes Auburn's second 4-star commit in the class of 2025 for Auburn basketball. An athletic guard who could score every single layer of the court. He is an absolute scorer through and through. Auburn currently number 36 class in the class of 2025. Getting 2 4-stars again. Got Simon Walker earlier. I believe either this month or last month got him out of Huntsville. And Auburn, Bruce Pearl has a great selling point for guys who want to play basketball in college, high-ranking guys. Is, if you go to Duke, Kentucky, Arkansas, if you go to any of the other schools, you possibly wouldn't play right away. But whenever you have a team loaded up with fifth-year seniors and a couple of freshmen, it opens up a lot of spots available for guys coming in to be able to go in right away and play for Bruce Pearl. So that's a great selling point for every team. So big ups to Caden Magwood joining Simon Walker in this class. And I expect Auburn to make a massive jump throughout the remainder of waiting for guys to commit for basketball. And speaking of men's basketball, off to a 3-0 start after taking down Kent State. I want to say Wednesday, 79-56. Almost let him come back into the game, but shut that down. Janai Broome, 18 points, as well as Chaney Johnson having 18 points. Also, another double-double for Janai Broome, 18 and 12. You also had a couple of 12-pointers from Chad Baker-Mazart and Denver Jones. CBM, by the way, I love him. He is hilarious. I know I talked about that a lot last year. But I've been watching on repeat the clip of him stealing a fry from the scorer's table. That's the funniest thing ever. I love CBM. I love the energy he plays with. And Denver Jones, of course, also having a good game for him as well. He also had 9 points off the bench from Tahad Pettiford and a couple of low-scoring performances from Miles Kelly, JP Pegues, only getting 3 and 2 respectfully. But Auburn looked good, played well defensively, what we're starting to expect from this team now. You have one more game between now and Iowa State, or you have North Alabama, which they'll play on Monday. So we'll be able to preview that game going on the Sunday live stream and then talk about that on the Tuesday show. So, and after that, you got a week of preparation, and then you got Iowa State in the Maui Invitational. And after that, after the Maui Invitational, got Duke. So don't know who Auburn's going to play at the remainder of that week of the 25th, but hopefully, you see Auburn, top 5 Auburn, by the way, get a big win against Iowa State next week, but also I expect them to get a big win over North Alabama on Monday. Women's basketball also getting themselves a massive win last night versus Arkansas Little Rock, 82-48. And you know what? Talia Scott is back, and she had an absolute electric performance, tying the Auburn record for threes made in the game. 8 of 14 from the three-point line, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 3 steals, and just an absolute great game overall for her first game as a Tiger starting as well. Just when you thought this team couldn't look any better, it looks outstanding. And, of course, not a lot of points scored by Auburn players because, you only had 2 girls score in double digits, but it was 26 points from Talia Scott and 21 points from Deanna Gaston, who also put a double-double up, 21 and 14. After that, Taylon Collins put up 9 points. Then you had Celia Sambane putting up 8 points. After that, Jordan Hunter, 7 off the bench and 6 from Marshawn Bostic, and then 2 from Adia and O, and 1 point coming from Sarai Daniels. But Auburn shot 50% from the three-point line, 9 of 18, which 8 of those coming from Talia Scott. Mike G said this. I feel like a lot of people underappreciated the fact that Auburn picked up Talia Scott. Auburn now has a girl who can score on all fronts. Another one at that point. This team is going to be really good. They are. I cannot wait until I'm trying to remember exactly what day, if it's this week or next week when they play Oregon. It's the 20th. So it is Wednesday. So they play Oregon on Wednesday. We'll be able to preview that on the Tuesday show as they get ready to play a top 25 team, getting ready for their first test of the year. ESPN Analytics not giving them a chance. But, I like the Tigers in that game. off the bat. Just being able to score everywhere. And I might be biased, might be a little biased, but I'm not opposed to a little biases showing whenever I'm talking about Coach Jay and company. Who, I talk about Auburn men's basketball picking up some signings. Women's basketball picked up a lot of signings, and I mean, I need to just go through every Twitter page, compose a list of every single signing that happened. One thing I did forget to mention though, that win versus Little Rock did get Auburn their 1,000 Auburn women's basketball their 1,000th win as the program, and they did that in record-breaking fashion, if you will. But commits galore. I mean, there was one girl from China. I'm trying to find her name again. I know it was Dang. Was her last name, and Mike G said that she would. Okay, Yuting Dang is signed with the Tigers yesterday, and Mike G said that she should be able to sign. Once she signs, she wants something. I forgot what exactly he said. So it's on my fault for not doing my due diligence here. That she could potentially play this season because she's coming over from China. So you get another girl who can just score from wherever. There was a clip of her going out where she made like however many threes in a row. So big ups to that. And again, Sunday, I'm just going to go through everything, find every single player that signed. Of course, you had a 4-star in Brandy Herod that signed, and of course, Nyla as well. Nyla Wilson, 5-star signing with the Tigers as well. So Coach Jay's building a program over here. If you're not watching Auburn women's basketball, what are you doing? So with that, I mean, baseball and softball also signed a bunch of players. That's going to be where the big list comes from, because I don't even know where to. I follow Auburn baseball and softball recruiting as much as possible, but they just make it so hard to find recruiting rankings for those sports. So I'll get a list for all of those so I can celebrate Auburn getting those signings on the Sunday live stream after we're talking about the Auburn win. Fingers crossed, knock on wood at this point. But that does it for this time of the College Loop Podcast. Thank you all for watching. I am Dylan Ableton on Twitter. Again, leave your thoughts on the Auburn ULM game. Who do you want to see play? Do you think Jarquez Hunter is going to hit 1,000 rushing yards on the season against ULM? Or will Auburn decide to give him a carry limit and not let him get there this game? Let me know in the comment section below. And, of course, don't forget to check out the College Loop literally everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the works, all those at the College Loop. And, of course, got me on Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, at DYLEN, and audio versions of the show available on Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and, of course, Amazon Music. And with all that being said, thanks for watching this installment of the College Loop Podcast. And, as always, War Eagle.